Now, while at the con, through his relationship with Sergio Aragonés, Dave made great friends with a group of cartoonists. From Mexico, and was invited to be a special guest at Con K. This is the first international comic book convention in Mexico City. Con K. Con K. Mexico. Con K. Once again, the Mexican cartoonist fell in love with Dave's warm personality and infectious spirit. So much so that Dave would be invited back 3 more times, where he would headline with Sergio, Stan Sakai, and Fillier. The Mexican people especially loved Dave's character, the Aloha Spirit, which is present here. As Gabriela Maya told me, we were all very fond of Dave's charismatic personality. His Aloha Spirit is very welcome in our country and into our hearts. In 1985, after 23 years of faithful service, Dave finally retired from the DOE, but he kept himself busy with freelance work. He collaborated on an AIDS awareness book for the style of Japanese manga. For the Department of Entertainment Services, he created Koha, the bubble maker fish, who reminds you to dump no waste, goes to ocean, and can be seen on storm drains and sidewalks throughout Honolulu. You may have seen them stamped in the concrete or just a little down. He collaborated with Doug Pebble Simonson of Pigeon to the Max fame on a local version of Mad Magazine called Papaya. Wow, looks just like it. Good job, John. Wow, looks just like that. Perhaps the highlight of Dave's career finally culminated on the eve of his birthday in 2007, when the then Honolulu Star Bulletin began running the bi-weekly Thorny Zoo, which by no small coincidence alternated with another great comic strip done by none other than, what's this guy's name? Jon J. Murakami. The idea for Thorny Zoo, a comic strip featuring a menagerie of funny animals with a zookeeper that looked suspiciously familiar, had been percolating in Dave's head for decades. And to finally have a published comic strip was the fulfillment of a lifelong dream. One that began in a little boy's bedroom some 70 years ago in Kalamazoo. Most recently, starting in June of 2011, a group of local cartoonists started gathering monthly in shopping malls and libraries to draw and talk story. The group became known as Comic Champion and was spearheaded by Michael Cannon, who is sitting in the aisle. Think of it as a musical jam session, where one musician starts playing and other musicians jump in. Likewise, cartoonists would start a drawing and then pass it along, and then each artist would add to it. The drawings are gathered at the end of each session, scanned in and posted to our Facebook page. Dave loved coming out to this gathering, to see old friends and to make new ones. And he just loved being out drawing again. It was like the heyday in the House of Cartoons. Now, when Dave heard or saw something that he thought was really, really funny, he had the most unique laugh. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. That was a holy grail among our cartoonist group. If you could draw or say something that could get Dave to laugh like that, it was like winning the lottery. It was like grabbing the brass ring off the merry-go-round, right? And I made it one of my personal goals in life to always try to get him to laugh. I mean, that was music to my ear. But as enthusiastic as Dave was, enthusiastic about cartooning as Dave was, that was only one of his passions. As evidenced here today, Dave was also passionate about supporting the deaf community, having lost his hearing at a very young age, possibly to scarlet fever. Many years ago, he took a sign language class at the Colorado Night School and quickly learned another language. Always the teacher, he illustrated his own books and handouts on teaching people how to sign. He taught them how to sign animal names like, what is that? Elephant, right? Or monkey, chicken. Heron, lion, or alligator, crocodile. Something. I don't need you. Back in 1989, Eugene introduced the world to his character Lyle, a hard-working, book-loving, left-handed African-American young man who knew American Sign Language and who just happened to have a deaf girlfriend, Lorna. Lyle debuted in issue number 3 of Philier's comic book, Patrick Guy. Dave also took his sign language skills to the theater, where he performed in plays for the hearing impaired like The Odd Couple, You Can't Take It With You, and Arsenic and Old Lace. Now, despite his difficulty hearing, believe it or not, Dave was an accomplished musician. He used to jam on his keyboard and even built himself a washtub bass so that he could play in the jug band with his friends. He used to love to sit in the front of his yard on the bench swing under the tree with his son-in-law Ivan, strumming his ukulele. His bebop duck character was a tribute to his love of jazz music, and references to music can be found throughout his comic strips. And as you heard earlier when you were walking in, he loved the Hawaiian music, and one of the few requests that Dave made for the service today was to have a jazz band. We're going to hear them later. Dave was not what we would call tech savvy. Dave did not have a love-hate relationship with his computer. It was more of a hate-hate relationship. He lost many files in his cyberspace and who knows where. Sometimes he found himself lost in the bowels of Photoshop. Sometimes he had, despite the challenges that he had with the computer, he eventually learned enough to do what he needed to do to produce his comic strip. There are many times where John, or I, or his friend Kathy, Kodama, would be called to help provide tech support for Dave when he accidentally deleted something or got into some technical glitch. After we would help him, after solving his problem, his response was invariably, oh, wow. You're so alive. Let me write this down. And his office was filled with these little sticky post-it notes with all these cryptic notes. File, open, delete. Now, does anybody remember when Dave first got email? Oh boy. I loved the man. But my inbox was filled with email jokes. Jokes, puns, limericks, inspirational videos, messages. Sometimes, if you were lucky, you'd be on different mailing lists and you'd get the same messages multiple times. Now, here's the example of a typical email exchange between Dave and me. And I just found this. He sent this to me a couple of years ago when I was going through my old emails, and I found this. I'd forgotten he had done this. But he had sent me the following inspirational poem. Some of you probably got the same one. And it went, your life is a garden, and your thoughts are your seeds. So if your life isn't awesome, you've been watering the weeds. So of course, being the smart aleck that I am, I quickly emailed him back my response. If my life were a garden, then I'd be a lot wiser. My problem has been, I'm all fertilizer. Dave, not to be outdone, sent this back to me. The gardens bloom, the windows howl. Who'd think such talent could come from a bowel? Of course, I had to respond. And Reverend, I apologize for the salty language. An autumn storm, a thunderclap. The words flow freely when you're full of crap. A few hours later, Dave sent this back to me. Then the award is given to the big Asian chap who gives good cheer and a great big crap. Well, this had gone on long enough. So I immediately responded, "Ah yes, life is a garden, and the weeds are now fewer, with good friends and family, and a whole lot of manure. Yes, life is a journey. Hold on for the ride. And my life's been much richer with a thorn in my side." And now it was 1 o'clock in the morning. Dave emailed me back. I decided to give him the last word. He wrote to me, he says, "Now that struck me. He says, don't you go to bed?" And he continued, he says, "The clock shows 1, and I do believe it's time for bed. But first to relieve." That means he was going to put a sentence. And you know, Dave had a wonderful way of signing his emails when he used that he would send to multiple people, right? We all saw when he wrote his emails, he would say, "Aloha, Dave, Dad, Grandpa, Uncle, Cuz, Amigo, whatever fits." And then he always added the slash and the backslash. Now some people thought it was just something weird, katakana for little songs. But those of us who knew him well, we knew exactly what that was. Dave had a signature way of saying goodbye to you when he saw you in person. He'd say, "Thank you." And the symbol were the hands coming together. Most of us knew it. Dave Jon did it. Those of us who knew him well. But it was really a sign of respect to him. Now, when I think of Dave, I'm reminded of an old song. It had these beautiful lyrics. I don't remember where, but in this song, there was a line that read, "There's not a word yet for old friends who just met." Okay, it was from the Muppet movie, but it was still a sentiment. It's still a good sentiment. There's not a word yet for old friends who just met. And that was a perfect description for Dave. He never met a stranger. These were just friends he didn't know yet. He loved talking to people and just making friends wherever he went. His niece Karen remembers that recently when Dave came to visit his sister, her mom, it was never a simple trip down the hospital corridor or to the grocery store or leaving the restaurant. It was like a farewell trip. I mean, Dave had to stop and chat with everyone along the way. "Oh, what's your name? Oh, where did you grow up? Oh, what school did you go to? What's your favorite animal?" And then he'd proceed to give everybody a personalized cartoon. And Karen knew, as we all do, there was nothing you could do with family members. All you could do was just smile and get comfortable. It's going to take a while.